So I'm Bill Clemens, professor of biochemistry at Caltech and the chair of the President's Diversity Council, an advisory faculty committee that provides recommendations for and supports campus-wide efforts in diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I've been at Caltech for 17 years and have witnessed dramatic changes in the institution towards achieving a more inclusive Caltech that directly builds on the work of Lee Browne. With that in mind, it is my great honor to welcome you to this community celebration and take part in the official dedication of the Lee F. Browne Dining Hall. You can clap for that. In recent years, Caltech has had time to reflect on our progress towards creating a diverse and thriving student body. It was with this in mind that we did the Caltech thing. We looked at the numbers. We had been successful in the past. What had been successful in the past was a question that we asked, and what was unequivocal in the numbers was the fact that there was a spike in diversity at Caltech that directly correlated with the work of Lee Browne. Mr. Browne came to Caltech to find talented students, and he brought to the table a demand for excellence and a passion for education. Through this, he identified many talented students who came to Caltech as undergrads, including many students of color. This mix of excellence and education is the reason that it is particularly fitting to dedicate this dining hall in his name. This represents a space that everyone on the campus gathers to find camaraderie and talk science. This is precisely what Mr. Browne brought to the campus as well, an inclusive space for all scientists. In the well-known picture of Mr. Browne surrounded by the Black Student Union, you get exactly this impression. He was someone who cared and dedicated himself to making a difference. Inspired by this, we at Caltech have strived to create a diverse institution that identifies and fosters young minds towards greatness. We have made impressive strides toward diversifying the campus, and I'm excited what Lee Browne will continue to inspire in the many generations of students that will take their meals here in this hall. As today's MC for the program, I have the privilege of introducing our speakers. But before I do that, I wanted to acknowledge some folks. In particular, I'd like to welcome Lee Browne's daughter here, representing the family. I'd also like to acknowledge that, or I'd like to recognize the alumni and faculty colleagues who worked with Browne during his 2 decades at Caltech. So could you stand up if you knew Lee while he was here? In addition, we're grateful to be able to welcome our local students and science teachers from Blair and Muir High School, 2 schools that Browne taught at before he came to Caltech. And can those folks raise their hand if you're here? Welcome to the campus. And finally, I'd like to acknowledge to my colleagues, current faculty, staff, and students who continue to carry on Browne's efforts in educational outreach and mentorship, thus fulfilling Browne's mission to create an environment where the most talented individuals, all races, backgrounds, and genders, can pursue STEM careers. And with that, please join me in welcoming Caltech's president, the Sonia and William David Al Presidential Chair and Professor of Physics, Dr. Thomas F. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon to all, and how meaningful to stand in front of the sign, the Lee F. Browne Dining Hall, right there. This afternoon's ceremony emerges from Caltech's reckoning with its past and our commitment to fulfilling our aspirations for the future. It is a great pleasure and honor to join Bill in welcoming the family and the friends of Lee Browne to our campus today, and a special call out to the high school students. Lee Franke Browne was born in 1922 and raised in North Carolina. Lee's father was a soldier in World War I and later became a blacksmith. As a child of 5 or 6, Lee spent much of his time watching his father and trying to understand the scientific process behind metalworking. Lee's scientific curiosity also was sparked by watching his grandmother make products such as lye, glycerin, and wine, and by his uncle's work as a furniture builder. He was encouraged to ask questions, and his family's consistent answer to those questions was always that he should attend college to better understand the scientific basis behind the processes that piqued his interest. He went to Storer College in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Beyond learning science, Storer College also made Lee more aware of politics and racial problems that he had been protected from as a child. It was during this time that he applied to Duke University and was denied admission because of his race. Lee became more motivated to address these social issues. His passion was further bolstered by the well-known poet Langston Hughes, who came to speak at Storer. Hughes encouraged Lee to start writing, helping him to develop a skill that he would take with him for the rest of his career. Most importantly, Lee Browne lived by the Langston Hughes words, "I have discovered in life that there are ways of getting almost anywhere you want to go, if you really want to go." Following his time at Storer, Lee was inspired to study at Michigan State. The president welcomed Lee to the program, but told him that he would not be able to live on campus because he was Black. He refused to attend Michigan State under these circumstances and went to a state college in West Virginia, where he received a degree in biology and chemistry. Because of his scientific background, he was deferred from the Army. He joined the Navy and was one of the first African Americans to enter through the Admiral branch. As the only member with ROTC training, Lee was responsible for running drills. People came from throughout Philadelphia to watch a Black man run drills for white soldiers. When he had completed his military service, Lee moved to Los Angeles, and now, of course, we're getting closer to the story that affects Caltech. He got married. He began graduate school at UCLA and landed a job teaching at Valley Junior College. He later moved to Muir High School and worked as an administrator at the newly opened Blair High School in Pasadena. Lee's reputation as a successful science teacher grew. He regularly visited the National Science Foundation with Caltech faculty members Harry Gray, who's here today, and Linus Pauling, and constantly kept up with the leading edge of science. In 1968, Caltech hired Lee to help recruit promising students, including students of color. He was given the title Director of Secondary School Relations, which later also came to include special student programs. And we've heard stories of how many students he influenced through his character and his care. Lee served in this role for 2 decades. During that time, he developed successful outreach programs that encouraged students from underrepresented backgrounds to consider careers in science. He also cultivated relationships with high school counselors at hundreds of schools throughout the region, an effort that has been credited with helping to improve graduation rates among underrepresented students at Caltech. Most importantly, Lee Browne set an example that still resonates today. As W.E. Du Bois, the American sociologist, historian, and rights activist pointed out, children learn more from what you are than what you teach. The newly named Lee F. Browne Dining Hall inspires our undergraduates, our graduate students, our postdocs, our faculty, our staff to realize their full potential and to make our community and our world a better place through their examples. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We now have the opportunity to hear from Lee Browne's family. I'd like to welcome his daughter, Adrienne Browne Tree, to the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Adrienne Tree, and I'm the youngest of Lee F. Browne's 4 children. I'm speaking briefly with you today on behalf of the family of Lee Browne and his loving wife, Dorothy Browne. They were married for 62 years. I would like to acknowledge my husband, Terry Tree, who is here with me today providing love and support. I would like to express my deep gratitude to all involved in bestowing this honor in the memory of my father. First off, thank you to the Caltech administration for endorsing this entire effort. Thank you to those at Caltech who initially conceived of the renaming of several of the Institute's buildings in the interest of promoting inclusion. Thank you to the family outreach team, notably Mr. Ralph Amos of the Alumni Association. Thank you to the Special Event Coordination Team, notably Ms. Shana Chabner of the Office of and of the Office of Strategic Communications. And a very special thank you to all of you here today, very sincerely, for sharing in the celebration of the contributions of Lee F. Browne to Caltech and its students over the course of 2 decades. Growing up with Lee Browne as the head of our family, my siblings and I saw a man of strength and dedication whose commitment to our education was paramount. Present here today, I can see the true impact that his deep commitment to educational excellence had on Caltech. Please know that I am deeply gratified. Once again, please accept my most sincere appreciation for celebrating this honor with my husband and me here today. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. It really is special for us to have you both here. Thank you. It's now my honor to welcome to the podium 2 Caltech alumni who were recruited to Caltech in the 1970s and proceeded to work with Browne during their times here. Please join me in welcoming Greg Gibson and Karen Maples.
Hello. I'm Greg Gibson. I graduated in 1977. This is my wife, Karen, and she graduated in 76. We've been married for 41 years, not 60. Sometimes she says it seems like 60, but anyway. So a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I met Lee Browne. I was lucky to meet Lee Browne because Caltech was not on my radar. So I was attending a college recruitment meeting, and I'm in there talking with someone. When Lee Browne walks in, someone decides to announce him. Here comes Lee Browne. Where are all the special science and engineering students? This got my attention. I was lucky to meet Lee Browne. It was my destiny. So I met Lee Browne, and we talked, and he convinced me to go to Caltech. And you know, Lee Browne was a very convincing person, very positive, very happy. And I don't remember everything, but I do remember he went to his wallet and pulled out a American Express Go card. And he says, everybody at Caltech has one of these.
Sign me up.
So I'm pretty young. I'm 22, so I was impressed. So this is where I got recruited. Let's see. I remember his office, which is right over there at the time. He had his own way of arranging. He had his own personalized organizing system. There'd be books and papers all over the place, but you know, it was good for him. We were friends. We talk about various things. Sometimes we talk about religion. As I recall, he was a Unitarian and I was a new Buddhist. And with respect to the cafeteria, he definitely liked his onions. Another time we talked about Richard Nixon. That was back when people were saying he should be impeached. And so on the Milliken building, someone put up a big sign that said, "Impeach Nixon." And one of the major donors said, "Get rid of the sign." And the president of Caltech then said, "I don't get involved in student affairs." Lee Browne loved that. He was proud of that. So then someone else decided to burn the sign down. Well, all of it didn't burn down. Only part of it burned down, ended up saying IMP, as in IMP Nixon. And Lee Browne thought that was so funny. Imp Nixon. Imp Nixon. Let's see, where did I leave off? Oh, he also helped my sister. And my sister wanted to go to grad school, and he decided to talk to some of the administration. He told me over and over again, he was real happy and proud about this. He said, the only thing I said is, have you talked to Elaine? He said, that's the only thing I said. And he got positive results, and he was really happy and proud of that. And of course, so were we. So I've always felt that we had a big debt of gratitude to Lee Browne. And I've talked to other classmates, and you say, why'd you go to Caltech? Lee Browne. Why'd you go to Caltech? Lee Browne. Why'd you go to Caltech? Lee Browne. All of them say that. So I think I speak for all of them when I say it was a big debt of gratitude we owe to Lee Browne and to Caltech's support.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Lee Browne crisscrossed the entire California to try to find students of color who he thought were very much interested in math and science. And more importantly, those he thought who could survive the rigors of Caltech. And I tried to fit his bill. So when he came to Berkeley High in 1971, he really encouraged me to come to Caltech. And even though I lived in Berkeley, I knew people going to Cal, I had never even heard of Caltech. It was, like he said, not on our radar at all. Only Lee Browne was the only one who said, this institution is for you. So 50 years ago, almost to this day, in 1972, I arrived on this campus. And I don't recall Lee Browne telling me that I would be only in part of the third class of women, nor did he let me know that, in fact, I would be one of the 3 Black women that he recruited single-handedly to come to Caltech. So I was one of the first 3 African-American women to ever attend this institution. But more than anything on campus, we saw him as one of those kind uncles. He was firm, but he was no nonsense. He was an administrator who really wanted us to really take advantage of the opportunity that Caltech could afford us. He really wanted to have a community of African-American students and other minorities so we could really succeed at this place. He was our sponsor of the Black Student Union at Caltech. Imagine that in 1972. And when I needed to speak to him, yes, he could be found right here outside this dining hall with his onion sandwiches. But we loved him to be accessible for all the students around here. It was really, really important to us. And he wanted us to really succeed. And I am too forever grateful for Lee Browne telling me about Caltech, for me to be able to survive here at Caltech, graduate on time, and I'm really honored to participate in this dedication. And on another note, I guess me and Greg would never have met had it not been for, for Lee Browne. So on that, I'm also grateful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really, really, really wonderful. Okay, so for our final speaker for today's dedication, I'd like to invite Caltech staff member and Pasadena Unified School Board member, Patrick Callahan, to offer some closing remarks about the impact of educational outreach and mentorship in our community today and the partnership that has continued to be fostered between Caltech and our local schools.
Now I can't see you, but at least I can read this. Greetings to fellow Caltech community members, and welcome to our community guests. A particularly warm welcome to those of us from my other community, the Pasadena Unified School District, whom I represent in elected office. I've been a Caltech staff member for 20 years, a Pasadena Unified parent for 18, and a trustee of the Board of Education for almost a decade. For those in the Caltech community who aren't very familiar with Pasadena Unified, the district enrollment is majority free and reduced lunch, with over 2,000 special education students, about 1,000 homeless or foster care students, and hundreds of English learners, many of whom are recent arrivals to the United States, which in some ways is a familiar position for some of you. When Caltech community members, including graduate students and postdocs, faculty members, research staff, and just normal workaday staff, reach out and engage with our local students, our students get a chance to see what being a scientist is really like. Not the scientists of disaster movies, which we just had a talk about the other day, or television CSI shows, but actual giant enthusiastic nerds who get as excited about an experiment as a middle schooler gets about the release of their newest video game. That particular experience is very relatable, it's very humanizing, and it makes it easier for the students to imagine being scientists themselves. As Mr. Browne himself said, you remember that math and science and stuff like that are very, very difficult for kids who don't hear it. That work, getting the science community to talk to that educational community, is enabled by Caltech Center for Teaching, Learning, and Outreach. CTLO has existed in its current form since 2012, but the roots exist in the work of Lee Browne. In a 1999 interview with Shirley Cohen, preserved in the Caltech Oral History Project, Mr. Browne covers his history from his youth in North Carolina until his retirement from Caltech. It's a wide-ranging interview reflecting on K-12 education, busing, institutional biases, racism, and how to inspire kids in math and science. You can see in that interview how Mr. Browne came to have such an impact on PUSD as a teacher and on Caltech as a staff member and a lecturer. I have historically not been a fan of naming places after people. The American society has a tendency to skew a certain sort of way in doing that, and I'm glad that our national conversation has turned around to reflecting, honoring work and not people. Mr. Browne did honorable work, and he deserves the honor that he's getting here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So I'm not sure what all of these speeches have done for you, but this event has really provided a meaningful glimpse for me into the many ways in which Browne, through his personal passions, commitments, and his excitement for teaching in STEM, has shaped this campus and many lives of individuals who've worked with him. I've also hoped that you've gotten some sense of how his legacy is being carried forward through Caltech's current faculty, staff, and students. And I hope we'll continue to be inspired by him. As we close our formal program and transition to the social hour, I would like to encourage all of you here to enjoy the refreshments nearby and to stop by the tables which are set up along the pathway where students and staff who've created and lead the STEMinstrators program and other outreach activities have set up some science demonstration for you all to see. Our student partners and clubs are invaluable to the institution's efforts to foster a greater appreciation and awareness of opportunities in STEM and regularly bring their lessons and their personal passions to schools across the country. I think it is fair to say that Lee Browne would be thrilled to see how far and wide that they all are taking his legacy. I'm very moved right now. and so I just want to close and just say thank you all for being here. I think I do speak for all of us that we really are grateful for all of the things that Lee Browne did for this community, and we're going to continue that legacy. Thank you.